This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Thompson on Demand.
Do you care about the wiener? When you saw the press conference yesterday, the news broke that Anthony Weiner admits his scandalous activity. Did you care? I didn't care so much about the action, the activity took place in. I mean, I don't like it. My only concern, whether it was him or when Bill Clinton was there, did they do it on our time? Our time, our money. I mean, the woman is of age. Wasn't a child he was with. I mean, he didn't break any laws, apparently. I mean, there's potentially, did he disparage the office with his actions? That's kind of a gray area. I don't particularly care about their personal life. A little bit, like I said, if they do it on our time. Beyond that, I don't care. Until they start lying to us. And the whole debate back with Bill Clinton was, well, he wouldn't have had to have lied if people hadn't, made this a big deal. Fact is, it was a news story. The guy posted it accidentally on his Twitter account for everybody to see, and the women come forward. The news people are going to ask you about it. And if you lie, that's when it becomes an issue. I don't particularly care about his personal life. That's between him and his God, him and his wife. That's it. You as a constituent, if you find out more information about him, maybe that matters to you. To me, I recognize we're all sinners. We all do some things wrong. So you can make a big deal about a lot of people's lives, just about all of us. It may not be sex. It may not be tax evasion. The tax evasion is actually breaking the law. But something else that would be immoral but not necessarily illegal. I don't particularly care about that aspect of it. I don't think it's a good thing that people are, concerned about that when they're supposed to be running the country and there's so many things to, worry about. He's married. He's got all of this stuff. But as I said, that's between him and his God and him and his wife. I just can't stand the cover-up. Stand up, be a man, admit to it. But Weiner actually comes out and attacks the reporters for asking him about it. Now, in a minute or so, I'm going to play for you the press conference from yesterday. And then I'm going to play some past press conferences where he, in the past couple of weeks, has attacked reporters. I mean, just yelling at them, calling them names because they dare to question him. And then I will share with you the lesson learned here. I'm actually going to do that about 9:33. The lesson learned with the entire Weinergate. There is one overall lesson to be learned. 9:33 this morning. Do you believe him? Do you believe that he's remorseful, that he's upset, that he's sad about it? Because in the press conference, he actually started crying. He started breaking down. Wasn't sobbing, but he was crying. He was getting choked up. And as I saw it, I felt bad for the guy. I don't want to see anybody suffer. I don't like Anthony Weiner. I think he's a bully, and I certainly don't like his ideas. I don't want to see him suffer. Now, I'll admit I'm taking a little pleasure in the possibility, although I still think it's unlikely, the possibility that he will leave Congress. Oh, I'll take great joy in that, not in his suffering. So I feel bad for him. The guy broke down. He's talking about his wife and family and friends and stuff like that. And then I went back and heard the past clips. So first I'm going to play for you the press conference yesterday, and I want you to tell me, do you believe him? Do you believe that he's sorry or he's just sorry that he got caught? 513-749-7800, the big one, or pound 700 on AT&T.
Thank you very much for being here, and good afternoon. I'd like to take this time to clear up some of the questions that have been raised over the past 10 days or so and take full responsibility for my actions. At the outset, I'd like to make it clear that I have made terrible mistakes that have hurt the people I care about the most, and I'm deeply sorry. I have not been honest with myself, my family, my constituents, my friends, and supporters, and the media. Last Friday night, I tweeted a photograph of myself that I intended to send as a direct message as part of a joke to a woman in Seattle. Once I realized I had posted it to Twitter, I panicked. I took it down and said that I had been hacked. I then continued with that story, to stick to that story, which was a hugely regrettable mistake. This woman was unwittingly dragged into this and bears absolutely no responsibility. I am so sorry to have disrupted her life in this way. To be clear, the picture was of me, and I sent it. I am deeply sorry for the pain this has caused my wife, Huma, and our family, and my constituents, my friends, supporters, and staff. In addition, over the past few years, I have engaged in several inappropriate conversations conducted over Twitter, Facebook, email, and occasionally on the phone with women I have met online. I have exchanged messages and photos of an explicit nature with about 6 women over the last 3 years. For the most part, these communications took place before my marriage, though some have sadly took place after. To be clear, I have never met any of these women or had physical relationships at any time. I haven't told the truth, and I've done things I deeply regret. I brought pain to people I care about the most, and the people who believed in me. And for that, I'm deeply sorry. I apologize to my wife and our families, as well as to our friends and supporters. I am deeply ashamed of my terrible judgment and actions.
Do you believe he's that ashamed? Do you believe he's sorry? Or do you believe he's ashamed and sorry that he got caught? Now, when I heard that, I got to admit, I was getting sucked in. I felt bad for the guy. It's got to be horrible. You know, the guy's getting that choked up. Then I went back and relived some of the press conferences over the last week or so, and I want to play a couple of clips for you. And you tell me after you hear these if you really believe he's sorry, if he really feels bad. Here's clip number 1 of an interview from about a week ago.
This was a prank that I've now been talking about for a couple of days. I'm not going to allow it to decide what I talk about for the next week or the next 2 weeks. And so I'm not going to be giving anything more about that today. I think I've been pretty responsive to you in the past.
But with respect, you're here, which we appreciate, but you're not answering the questions. Can you just say why you haven't asked law enforcement to investigate what you are alleging is a crime?
You know, Dana, if I was giving a speech to 45,000 people, and someone in the back of the room threw a pie or yelled out an insult, would I spend the next 2 hours responding to that? No, I would get back.
This is not that situation.
I would get back.
This is not that situation.
I would get back. Well, why don't you do? What you want to do the briefing?
You
want to do the briefing, sir?
From your Twitter account,
sir,
a lewd photograph was sent to a college student.
Sir,
answer the question. Was it from you or
sir,
not?
Permit me. Do you guys want me to finish my answer?
Yes. This
okay.
answer. Did you send it or not?
All right, the guy fights with the reporters, adamantly denies it as far as, you know, the parts that he will admit to or address. The rest of the stuff he just sidesteps, and anytime they bring it up, he continues to just sidestep it and then actually attacks one of them verbally and calls him a jackass.
Dana, let me...
That you were hacked. And that's a criminal, a potential...
Dana, let me... I'm going to have to ask that we follow some rules here. And one of them is going to be U.S. questions. I do the answers. That seem reasonable?
I'd love to get an answer.
That would be reasonable, right? You do the questions. That would be reasonable. You do the questions. I do the answers, and this jackass interrupts me. How about that as the new rule of the game?
Congressman.
Let me just give the answer. The objective of the person who is doing the mischief is to try to distract me from what I'm doing. So for the last couple of days that has happened. I've made a decision. I'm not going to let it happen today. I'm not going to let it happen tomorrow. You're free. You're doing your job. I understand it. Just go ahead and do it, but you're going to have to do it without me every day and answer more questions about this.
The person doing the mischief? You mean himself? I mean, he was trying desperately right there, actively working to try to point the finger at somebody else, to try to make people believe it was not him. I mean, he was fighting to do that at the point, fighting with the reporters who were just asking questions, and he kept trying to sidestep it. And when they would try to follow up, say, listen, Congressman, we're just asking you, did? I'm not going to talk about this. Calls the guy a jackass, and then continues with this little gem.
There are people who are going to want to try to distract from the work that I have to do. There are going to be people who are going to want to have this debate. And to some degree, the people that are engaging it are zealous to do it. Why? But I don't want to. I choose to fight for the things that I care about and the things that I'm working on. Look, can I tell you something? I know this is how the game is played. Some people decide they want to talk about this thing for days and days. I choose not to. That's my prerogative. I'm sorry.
Can I just throw this out there, though? If this is the non-story that you say this is, and a distraction,
I didn't characterize it as a distraction.
Okay.
I'll leave it to you to make the decision.
If you think this is just a distraction, you're a sophisticated guy. Why not just answer the questions and then you'll be done?
I've been doing that for several days. Now I choose. There are people who apparently haven't read the statements. I assume that you have. Look, all I can tell you is this: this is akin to someone deciding on day 3 or day 4 they want to continue talking about something that I consider a distraction, and me making a decision on how I'm going to deal with this. And the decision that I've made is I'm not going to permit it to distract me. I'm not going to permit it to continue on for 3, 4, 5, or 6 more days.
Now, is that the same guy that was crying on stage yesterday? The guy who broke down crying because his wife and family had been subjected to this? That was just a week ago. I understand trying to get out of hot water. But if he was really sorry, shouldn't he have said it a week ago? If the girl hadn't come forward, if the new information hadn't gotten leaked yesterday, Monday night as well, Sunday night as well, would he have still had that press conference yesterday? In other words, if ABC News and Andrew Breitbart hadn't released the new information about the new people that were coming forward, would he have still had that press conference yesterday, and would it have played out the same way? Would he have cried? Would he have apologized? Or would he have continued his combative behavior with the reporters who are just trying to follow up questionable responses from the congressman? Is he sorry? Or is he sorry he got caught? Your call's next. 513-749-7000, 800 the big one, pound 700 on AT&T. Your Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast for meteorologist Frank Marzullo. You got sunshine this afternoon, hot, slight possibility of T-storm in the afternoon, high 92. Clear skies tonight, low 70. Sunshine, hazy. It'll feel like about 100 tomorrow. In actuality, it'll be about 95. Currently 76 at the big one, 700 WLW. So do you think he is actually sorry or sorry that he got caught? I was buying his act. I felt bad for him, kind of got sucked in. And then when I went back and listened to those and how combative he was, how defiant he was, I realized he's not sorry. He would have stepped up prior to that if he was sorry. He wouldn't have been that combative. Now, I don't know what's truly in his heart. I'm just giving you my opinion. But I have had enough. I've had enough of elected servants who are arrogant, where somehow they are special because they are in that office. They are not special. Special would be honoring that office. The office is what's special. If you believe in your freedom, if you love your freedom, if you love America and you believe in the Constitution and the principles America was founded on, then you believe that the office is special. Our representative republic is special. So it's those offices, those offices that stay regardless of who is in that office at the time. So if you want to be as special or as important or impressive or noble as possible, then you will honor that office and recognize that you are just there temporarily, that it is not you. It is the office. It is America. It is freedom. But I've had enough of their arrogance. Although we're partially responsible for it. A congressman. Oh, senator. Hello. Governor. Hi. We give them those titles, and then you and I act the same way. I've had enough of it, and I certainly do not like the way he treated the media. I don't have a problem with calling people out when they're acting wrong. But they were doing their jobs on something they were actually right about. So do you think he's sorry or sorry he got caught? Taking your calls now. Rick in Hamilton, you're on the big one.
Yeah, I would. This time, I would have to agree with you on this. I don't necessarily agree with everything that you comment on all the time.
What's the matter with you, Rick? Come on.
As I do with the other, Cunningham, those guys. But in this case, I would agree with you. I don't think he's sorry. I think he's sorry that he got caught, as most politicians. And when you're in a public, when you're when you're in the public eye and your whole life is out there to be examined, and it would seem to me that even your inner self or inner hidden agenda, whatever, comes out, you set yourself up to be discovered. And I agree with you. What the last clip is nothing more than to play on the emotions of constituents to try to get away from it or to look innocent. And
so let me ask you, Rick. Do you think he's going to go away, or is this all going to blow over in a couple of days?
Well, based on what I read, I think Nancy Pelosi is making waves now. So I guess it depends on how much what she can do to have him removed. I don't know. This isn't like President Clinton when he went through all that he had to go through. In this case, this is another congressman. But if he's going to continue, and I think it'll be questioned, I think eventually he may go away, but not without a fight. I think he's going to, as demonstrated in the clips prior, he's going to try to win people back over and come across as he's this loving father and all this other good husband, all this crap. But his inner self, his demons within, I guess you could say. I don't know, but I think
Bill Clinton taught politicians, at least the smart ones, the devious ones, a great lesson, Rick. And I appreciate the call. He really did. And the lesson is, you can survive this stuff if you're willing to take the slings and arrows. Depending upon the circumstances, if you're willing to be tried in the media and have your name dragged through the mud and go, if you're willing to do it, you can survive it. Sure, something else will happen down the road. There'll be another huge news story, and people will forget it. On 9/10, what was 9/10/2001? What was the biggest news story out there? The morning of 9/11, up until 8:30, 8:40, what was the biggest news story out there? Chandra Levy. And within 20 minutes, a half hour later, that story was done. You can survive it. Bobby in Monroe, you're on the big one.
Yeah, I'm apologize for my absent-mindedness on remembering who the congressman is that we're talking about.
It's Congressman Weiner.
From
New York.
Okay, all right, yeah. I totally think that, man, that attack on the media, I don't understand what that was about. But I think he's sorry, right? But
well, and the thing is, Robbie, I understand people can be sorry in that, and I understand if a congressman stands up for somebody accusing him of something that he didn't do. If a congressman is defending somebody, a reporter from saying something horrible about their family when the congressman didn't drag his family into it. I have no problem with you speaking your mind as an elected servant and even sticking it to people and yelling. I have no problem with that. But when you're doing it and you're wrong and they're following their job based on what you've said, and then you treat them that way? In Maineville, Dave, you're on the big one.
Good morning, Doc.
Morning, sir.
After Anthony Weiner gets grilled and finally resigns from Congress, I'd like to be the first to nominate him president of the MHDS Society.
The male hotness delusional syndrome?
Correct.
Yes, he could be a good candidate.
He is a prime candidate for such derangement.
Well, now that he's learned his lesson, and he's sorry, Dave, and we could tell because he was crying on stage, now that he's learned his lesson, I'm sure he has recognized he has a problem and would be willing to speak on behalf of that horrible, horrible affliction, male hotness delusional syndrome. And if you question whether or not he had it, he sent semi-naked and naked photos to young women. In fact, if you want to see some of them, they're on my blog at 700WLW.com. In fact, there's an exchange. He sent hundreds and hundreds of Twitters back and forth, tweets back and forth with some of these women, and some of them have been released. It is just erotic talk. Some of them are up. There's a link so you can read some of them on my blog if you care to. But I'm warning you, they get a little edgy, a little racy. So just know what you're getting into. But if you want to see it, the guy sends the naked, the bare-chested shot of himself. Yeah, The guy has male hotness delusional syndrome. He's thinking he's all that. All right, coming up after the news, the actual two big lessons that I don't think anybody else has talked to. The two big lessons on this story. We'll also take the best Anthony Weiner headlines. If you've got any that you think, you can help out the media in writing good headlines, we'll take those. And I also want to share a little bit of hypocrisy. Anthony Weiner basically was having exchange with women like this. Doesn't look like he is that, treats women that honorably. But he tried to defend women recently. I'll share that. It's all coming up. 700 WLW. Doc Thompson on 700 WLW. Two major lessons learned with the entire Weinergate. Two of them. Now, the first one, I'm going to give him his due. It actually comes courtesy of Sloaney. Sloaney says to me in the hall yesterday, and it is a powerful point. We are electing morons. That is one of the biggest lessons learned. I think the second biggest lesson that we should learn. Forget everything else. Whatever happens to Anthony Weiner happens to him. As we move forward, let's realize we are electing morons who cannot even master social media, who cannot do these basic things. Go down the list of people who are idiots who think they're not going to get caught. Everything you do is on tape somewhere, is recorded. Your footprint is everywhere. There are cameras everywhere. Every bank, every business has cameras. You can't walk down the street. Your cell phone has GPS on it. Everything you do, Twitter, email, you get on the computer, you're leaving footprints. It doesn't matter who you are leaving footprints. And that's just for me and you. A congressman, you're even under higher scrutiny. People are looking for this stuff. We are electing morons who cannot master social media. Scott Sloan, you are absolutely right. But here is the biggest lesson to be learned in this entire thing. The one lesson we should take away that all of us should try to remember. If your name is Weiner, change it. Why are you hanging on to a name like Weiner? If your name is Butts, change your name. Why would you hang on to a name like this? Do you think at some point in history it's going to swing back where it will no longer have that same meaning? Maybe it will, or maybe it won't. Why would you hang on to a name like this? Do you think your kids want names like that? What, you don't want to give it up because it's a family name? Do you think your great-great-great-great-grandfather, if he knew that your name is now synonymous with penis, would want you walking around with it? Son, I'm glad that's what that's taken on, the meaning. Excellent. Excellent. I'm very proud to keep the family name. No. Most sane people would say, we got to do something about this. We got to get rid of it. Butts, Weiner, or any other of the names that I'm sure you can come up with, you've got to change these names. At very least, tell people that they're pronouncing it. No, my father was French. It's Weiner. Seriously, it's Boots. Yes, I know it looks like it's Boots. Why would you hang on to such a horrible name? It's very simple. Change it. Weiner's an easy change. Just call it Winner. That's a positive, especially if you're going to win for Congressman Weiner. Change your name. This is the lesson we need to be learning. This is the thing we need to talk about. Why would you hang on to such a horrible name? I'm speaking out for all the children out there that are in school with names like Butts or Weiner. For all of them who are getting their butts kicked on the playground right this second, who are teased relentlessly. It's hard enough to avoid getting teased. Well, they always make up some rhyme. But when it's Weiner, maybe we need some sort of advocacy group, some sort of help group for people who are suffering. Names like Weiner. But horrible. Joe, Green Township, you're on the big one.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great show today.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if you knew, but this past week the Worldwide Developers Conference is going on out in San Francisco. It's where Apple unveils all its new toys. Like historically, Steve Jobs has put out the new iPhone. Well,
he put out iPad and iPhone at the last few years. Yeah.
And I was researching it yesterday as it was going on, and I saw Google has this live feed thing where you can view Twitter updates and things that come. And I keep seeing this retweet that kept coming up, and it said, "I bet Anthony Weiner wishes that Steve Jobs announced the iPhone 5." And I thought he would really appreciate that.
Anything to get the heat off of him, right?
Absolutely. I thought it was perfect.
Joe, if your name was Weiner or Butts, would you be hanging on to it as some great legacy, saying, I've got to keep this great family name?
No way. And it's actually funny you mentioned that. I was listening to another local radio station, I think it was last night, and one of the guys, I think he was afraid to say Weiner, and he kept calling him Anthony, like, Weiner or Anthony Winner, and I was like, no, it's Weiner.
It's
You
Weiner.
don't have to hide it.
Yeah, you got to go ahead and get rid of that. That's the lesson learned here. Why would we hide from this and pretend like we all don't smirk when we drive by a store or something and see it? When somebody goes, how you doing? I'm Doc Weiner. That you don't say inside, how you doing? Yeah, outside, you're like, oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Weiner. We all smirk. Just change it. I knew a woman who had a name, and since we're talking about it, it was similar to Weiner and could be taken another way. And she was of age and said, that's it, I'm getting rid of this thing. And she just did away with it. And she chose something like Worthington or Remington or something. It sounded very regal. Excellent, good. Good for you. Yes, exactly. John Boehner is a great one. I mean, isn't that really Boner? But at least it's Boehner. Excellent point. I don't know if it was originally pronounced Boner or not. Maybe 100 years ago. Maybe 10 years ago. But at this point, it's Boehner. And if somebody screws it up and says Boner, it's on them, right? What are you talking about? What, are you trying to give me the business here? It's Boehner. Oh, I'm sorry. Then you feel like the idiot, right? Change the name. Think of the children. People want to think about the kids going to school, education. Do they have enough food? Think about their name. Weiner led to some great headlines as well. In fact, I posted on my Facebook page looking for the best headlines. Maybe you can help out the media. Some of them are having trouble with this. I've got some of the best ones. If you've got some to share, please, 513-749-7000, 800, the big one, pound 700 on AT&T. And also next, Anthony Weiner actually standing up for women a couple of months back. It's all on the way, 700 WLW. Speaking of John Boehner, Boehner, 2:06 today, Willie's going to talk with United Nations correspondent Joseph Klein on Boehner's Libya resolution. That's coming up today, 2:06 on the big one, 700 WLW. That email here, guy had some headlines to share. You know, how is Dick a nickname for Richard? What does that have? How many letters are the same? 2? For that matter, how is Jack a nickname for John? It's the same number of letters. 2 other things that popped up in my head when you're talking about names. Ryan in Cincinnati, you're in the big one.
Hey, Doc.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. So my last name is Grow, Grow, and I'd like to name my first son Richard William.
No. What are you doing? You want to see him get his butt kicked, or are you going for the boy named Sue thing? Jill in Cincinnati, you're on the big one.
Hi, Doc. I was listening to you this morning. About 25 years ago, I worked for an outfit down in Houston. It was called Weiner's Department Store, and their son was named Andy Weiner.
See.
And when I looked at the news this morning, I looked at that guy, and I can't tell you if it's him or not, but I just thought it was kind of funny.
You mean the congressman?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it is. I think he's a lifelong New Yorker, although he could have, could have been from there. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had to say.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much telling us that you used to work for Weiner's. I don't know. Am I supposed to mention? Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. If he gets upset at people knowing his past, oh well. Most people don't realize that some of us here at the station have changed our names. It's common when you're in broadcasting to change your name. If you've got, especially back in the day, an ethnic name, people would shorten and make it very simple. Jim Scott changed his name. His name was Scott Penness. And although it's pronounced Penness, it was French, it It looks like penis. So he took his first name as his last name and just, changed the thing around. I mean, imagine having that for a name. Well, anytime you'd be on TV or a billboard or on the air and you see it in writing, it looks like penis. So Scott Penness became Jim Scott. Got some interesting headlines. These are the best headlines from Weinergate. And I'll post all of these eventually on my blog at 700WLW.com. I've already got some up there on my Facebook page. These are ones that people either thought up or actually saw in print. Hard times ahead for Weiner. Weiner declares, I was born this way. I don't know what that means. I know it's a Lady Gaga thing, but it's a bit of a stretch. Oscar Mayer distances, now sells hot dogs. Well, you got to get away from that. Weiner exposed. Emotional Weiner apologized for being hard on others. Weiner in hairy situation. Weinergate stokes fire for New York sexting bill. Weiner in deep. And based on the fact that he cried yesterday, here's one. Weiner balls. Weiner decides it's best not to pull out of Congress. Weiner in hot water. Weiner wants the truth to come out. Weiner not giving in. All headlines that people saw or came up with. Weiner blows it. Weiner hangs head in shame. I do this as a benefit to my fellow broadcasters and journalists out there, people in the media, so they have some pre-written headlines they can just go ahead and fill in the rest of the story. Doing a little bit of work for them there. Go to Tom on a cell phone. You're on the big one.
Hey, Doc. I was going to say, I'm not native to Northern Kentucky, but my wife is. That's where we live now. And I was at a party, and one of my neighbors, who's not a native either, he said he and his wife had a long-running debate about a shoe store in Erlanger, and she said that the owner's name was Dick Weiner, and he said they were arguing about that for 15 years. So I called my wife, and I said, honey, do you recall a shoe repair store in Erlanger called, before I could even say the name, my wife said, oh, sure, Dick Weiner Shoes.
So was the debate between the two of them whether it was pronounced that way or if it really existed?
I think both.
Oh, okay.
I think both.
You gotta love those things like that people argue forever about. That's the type of thing that I would end up arguing at a party for about 45 minutes. Appreciate that. Coming up next, got to play a clip from Anthony Weiner from just a couple months back where he was telling about something that was offensive to women. We'll do it next on the big one, 700 WLW. Doc Thompson on the 700 WLW. Anthony Weiner, a few months back, was speaking on behalf of a group of people in his district about a statue that was offensive to many. The statue is called Triumph of Civic Virtue. It's been around since the early 40s. Triumph of Civic Virtue. It's a 20-foot marble fountain. It has a nude, muscular man holding a sword behind his head, and he's standing atop two bare-chested mermaids. He's kind of standing on them. They're slithering around. And it is meant to portray civic virtue triumphing over vice and corruption. The vice and corruption being represented by the women, like sirens, for example. He was triumphing, regardless of their siren song, doing the right thing. But Anthony Weiner said it was offensive and sexist, and standing in the rain spoke out on behalf of a group of people who wants it changed.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that this is not government literally standing on the foot of corruption, or not literally standing on the foot of vice, but by depicting women in that role, by depicting women under a muscular man, was a common artistic form of its time, which is out of step with our cultural expressions of the moment.
Now, he gave this speech all the while having questionable relationships with people, even though he's married, sending pictures of himself to women. By some standards, cheating on his wife. May not be physical cheating, but some people would consider that cheating. I'm wondering what would be more respectful to women. Respecting them like your wife and your family and your constituents by not doing something inappropriate of a sexual nature, or speaking out about a statue that many people don't think anything is wrong with. It's art. That type of art has been around for centuries. Which is more offensive to women? You not being respectful of your relationship with women, or a statue from 70 years ago? But it didn't matter. He stood in the rain for this press conference and called out a statue when he could have been doing the right thing for his wife, his family. Bit hypocritical, isn't it? Doc Thompson on the home of the Reds, 700 WLW.